Jim Flood, originally from Troy, New York. So I started hunting later in life, I would say a little bit more than 10 years ago. It was just an extension of all the things I liked about the outdoors. I like observing nature, animals, seeing a deer, seeing a bear, seeing a turkey in the woods. I wanted to get closer to that. It means a lot to me. It's valuable time that I get to spend not working in nature, and I look forward to it every year. It's a privilege. That's the first thing that comes to mind. It's a privilege to be out in the woods hunting anywhere in New York State, anywhere in the country for that matter, but to be on RPA lands. It's special to me because I grew up in this area. It's a beautiful ecosystem with the mountains and some of the farmland that's sprinkled in. You see a lot of cool wildlife, whether it's bears or foxes or bobcat. It means getting out and furthering my connection with the outdoors. One of the reasons I hunt is I, enjoy and I feel it's a responsibility of every hunter. Like if I'm going to take that animal, I'm going to consume it. And I also like the fact that it's organic, protein. A lot of people these days are trying to get free-range, organic, healthier food in their system. And I like knowing where my food comes from. I've seen some pretty cool things sitting in the woods for hours on end. Probably one of the most enjoyable hunts that I've experienced had nothing to do with actually harvesting and or killing an animal. It was watching a red fox come into a young doe, and it was something out of Bambi, honestly. The fox comes over and starts to, look at the deer, and the deer does the same. And they just sat there and looked at each other in close proximity. It was the coolest thing to see. And honestly, that's why I do it. You can only get a certain number of what they call tags. You can only take so many deer, and a lot of hunters are going to be very selective about the deer they go after. I think some people might think it's kind of the Wild West out there. They hear firearms being shot, they hear gunfire, and that's scary to people. I get that. But most hunters are, law-abiding. They've taken the required hunter safety course. They're very diligent. They spend a lot of time planning and preparing. The other thing I would say is hunters, another misconception is maybe misunderstanding or maybe it's not known, is how much hunters spend time, protecting the environment, contributing time, resources, money to wildlife habitat restoration, to the wildlife that they're perhaps hunting. But a lot of hunters really, really care about the species of hunting and in general, the environment that they're in. Unlike every other hunter in New York State, was required to take a hunter safety course, which was a lot of pre-work, hours of it, quite frankly, and then actually to pass the hunter safety test. That's number one. Number two, a lot of planning, a lot of practice, making sure that I'm prepared to be in the woods. I would say communication. If I actually encounter a hunter or another hiker out in the woods, I will verbally say, I'm here, just to let them know. And then the last thing, and this is newer to New York State, maybe a couple of years ago, they mandated that hunters wear blaze orange while they're out hunting. So that's something you can see really hundreds of yards away in the woods, and it's a form of nonverbal communication. What does the RPA do to ensure that they have a safe hunting environment? So the Hunting Safety Committee will reach out, make sure that each hunter has a license, they'll know the vehicle, they'll know who's coming and going, and they keep it very organized. They also limit the number of hunters that can be on a piece of land on a given day, which is pretty good, and you don't see that, say, for example, on other New York State lands. So I think that's an extra step that the Hunting Committee does to keep people safe. So The members of the hunting committee will call you and ask you some questions, some of which were on the applications, but there's other questions. They want to get to know you and who you are and the character of that individual who's going to be hunting on the land. So I would say it's a pretty rigorous process that the hunting committee goes through to vet the hunters that are going to be on RPA properties.